I think there's a few things that honestly, like employers and education providers kind of get wrong here. One is they tend to confuse exposure with mastery. So because I spent X amount of time doing something, that means I have a demonstrated ability to do it. And we know that that's not necessarily true. I could sit in an accounting course for the same amount of time as someone else, and I guarantee I will still be a very bad accountant. It does not mean that I have the demonstrated ability that's needed on the job. And so what we need is for systems, to move from a system that's looking at time and exposure into a system that is really looking at the verified skills and abilities that we need. So one thing that we all get wrong is confusing time with mastery or proficiency. I think the other thing that probably more employers get wrong than educators is that we tend to treat skills as like an isolated checkbox, right? And so when we over engineer each individual skill and feel like, oh, we have a complete skills list, we kind of over atomize it and we lose coherence or context, because skills don't live in isolation, right? I don't just go do a skill and come back. It's always in context. And so we need to be thinking about that. And the last thing I'd say, and this gets at, Sasha, what you just said, like we don't define performance levels, right? And so we have to be thinking about it. CBEN, we call this levels of mastery or performance indicators. Like we don't just want someone who has nursing skill. We need a person who can triage under stress, who can make safe decisions. And we need to be able to clearly define that. And that's where we tend to get it wrong, is we might say something like, as educators, oh, you get critical thinking through gen ed programs or through liberal arts. Well, how do we know? What does that look like? And employers simultaneously are saying we need critical thinkers, and the two teams aren't talking to each other to really define what that looks like in action to be able to kind of create a coherent program. So that's those are at least the three big areas where I see folks kind of getting it wrong. And that's where I think CBE really can deliver on bridging a gap.